All right, Spurs fans, we are going to get right into it. I have my Spurs timeline here. You have a picture of what we're going through right now, but we're going to start all the way to when it all started in my childhood. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. All right, Spurs fans, so we're going to start off. We're going to go through my timeline, and I'm going to kind of narrate the biggest memories that I have from the Spurs. And you guys make sure to comment along the way if you guys remember these as well, or just anything that you want to add on to it, right? So first and foremost, right, a couple of things about me, right, because this video is going to be a little bit different. Originally, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, so I do live in San Antonio now, so for all my San Antonians that may be from the Valley, shout out to the 956. And then also, this was kind of, the big city growing up for anybody in the Valley, in my opinion, right? So when you come to San Antonio, you do all the things, right? You shop, you kind of do your visits, and you check out a Spurs game. So that is something that really, family-wise, was a big deal for us, was watching Spurs basketball. All right, so right off the bat, 1999, the Spurs are winning their championship. And to be completely honest with you, this is the first memory I have of the Spurs. And this is probably why excellence was always at the standard, was because right off the bat, anyone born in the early 90s or mid 90s, the Spurs were winning, right? And I don't really have any memories of David in his heyday whenever he was, I saw the highlights catching alley-oops and blocking, chase down blocks and all that. I saw David more on the tail end, but of course, Tim Duncan was just starting his career in 1999, and his second year won a ring. And, you remember that 99 team, Sean Elliott, Avery Johnson, Mario Elie, just some dogs on that team. I think Vinny Del Negro, if I'm not wrong. So, and then of course, Jaren Jackson, right? Senior. So just some players that you might remember from the 99 team. And of course, this kind of set the bar for what the Spurs, little did we know, were going to be achieving for years to come. So right off the bat, after 99, well, before we move on, right, we had some pretty intense competition in the West, right? We had Kevin Garnett, we had Rasheed Wallace, we had Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash, who were on the same team, right? We had the Lakers, of course, Kobe and Shaq and Robert Horry and Rick Fox and Derek Fisher, who we'll get into that in a little bit. But this was my favorite matchup, was KG and Tim Duncan. KG being on the Timberwolves, he always gave us a run for our money. Seattle Supersonics, right, with Gary Payton. But nonetheless, varying personalities right here. But Timmy, from early on, set the tone. Hey, I'm here. I'm not going to budge. You can try me, but you're not going to get much out of me except buckets, rebounds, and assists, and blocks. So we're just very thankful to have Tim Duncan. And of course, we know, and this was 04, right? But the Lakers go on to three-peat, of course, and the Spurs are knocked out a couple of times. But we get the 03 championship against the Nets, right? We go through the Mavericks. I think we even go through the Lakers as well. But I want to highlight 04 because I really remember this. This was a heartbreaker. Derek Fisher .4. If you know what I'm talking about, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe, because you're going to get a lot more memories like this. It was very painful. Coming off of a championship, right, in 03. This game should have been ours. I believe we would have probably won 04, and then we won 05. So I know everything's hindsight, but I think we could have had a three-peat if it wasn't for this shot right here. Let me know what you guys think about that. And just looking at the floor, right, who we have: Manu Ginobili, Devin Brown out of San Antonio, Tim Duncan, Rasho Nesterovic, probably Tony Parker, Ginobili on the side, and then looks like Shaq, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, and Derek Fisher, who of course was a Spurs killer. There are a few Spurs killers out there. In my opinion, Derek Fisher, Kevin Durant, maybe. It's sometimes random players too, right? Dragic was a Spurs killer, so, it is what it is. And then 05, guys, this is probably my favorite Spurs memory ever, if I'm being honest. I think I even wrote a essay in school about my memory of this, and this is coming from Game 5. Robert Horry going for the dunk, nearly tearing off his arm. He was in pretty serious pain, he said. But he took over. He hit like 3 3-pointers that were so clutch, came through so big for the Spurs, and we're just very thankful for you, Robert, because I know there's kind of been some stuff about, well, does he really like San Antonio? But coming from a true Spurs fan, man, you did so much, and we were very, very thankful to have you, and just anything you do for the organization, thank you. Of course, 06, we have a tough loss to the Mavericks. Dirk Nowitzki has a pretty clutch shot that Manu fouls him. You might remember that. But 07, right? this is where Tony Parker really starts to get his career going. We meet LeBron James in the finals, his first finals. We sweep him. Tony gets finals MVP. Just a pretty dominant year by the Spurs. And then we go into 08, and I call those the Richard Jefferson years, right? Some of the lost years. We don't talk too much about that. Richard, if you're watching, yikes, buddy. What happened? But then we go into 2011 and we draft a young player out of San Diego State named Kawhi Leonard. And we ship off George Hill, which at the time was pretty controversial to true Spurs fans because he was a fan favorite. But, you know, we trust the Spurs draft selections, especially back then. So we took Kawhi. He was a defensive-minded player from what we heard. And, I mean, you guys know what happened. He turned into a great two-way player, both offensively and especially defensively. So much to the point that he gets good enough to be a part of our finals run in 2013. And this was hurtful. Other than Derek Fisher, this is probably the one of the worst memories we have as Spurs fans. And, you know, I don't got to talk about it too much. You guys probably remember the Ray Allen shot, but Tony Parker's face pretty much says it all right there. What is going on? What happened? We had it in our hands and it was gone. But that was good motivation for when it ended up happening in 2014, where if you guys watched the Spurs in 2014, nobody could stop them. Nobody could stop them. They were a literal train that would beat teams by 30 sometimes, most times. I remember watching almost all their games that year, and you could not take away their mentality of we're going to do this and we're going to do it right. So, of course, Kawhi was a big part of that, getting finals MVP along with the championship, and everything was fine. Kawhi felt like he was in good hands, right? Looks like he was getting better. 2017 goes through Memphis. In my opinion, that Memphis series made him a superstar. And then he goes into the Warriors series, and game one is already dominating. And then, of course, Zaza Pachulia slips right under his foot, and he gets injured. And, you know, you can talk about Spurs mismanaged his injury or whatever. Kawhi wanted to go home or whatever. But long story short, he ended up getting shipped out. And we went through some pretty dark years. Of course, nothing on DeMar. DeMar was a Spur through and through every day, worked hard, didn't complain, did what he needed to do, right? You guys remember Josh Richardson. That was another player that just, hey, not the best situation for me, but I'm going to make the best of it. So thank you guys so much for what you did, because it was hard to watch, but Spurs basketball. So thank you. Of course, we ship off DeMar and we kind of rebuild, and, you know, this is where we are now with Wemby. We got the number 1 pick in 2023, the number 4 pick in 2024 with Stephon Castle, who ends up being the best player in the draft. And now we have the number 2 pick, Dylan Harper, who, in my opinion, is going to be better than Cooper Flagg, or more successful, let me just say that, and better. I think he's going to be a better player overall for this NBA's landscape. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know all of your Spurs memories. Make sure to comment and subscribe, and just anything that you guys want to know, I'd love to hear. Have a great day, guys.